We got the new Arbiter store pet. We've got the new Arbiter, and we've got the store pet. We've got the next expansion to World of Warcraft, which, now I think about it, we probably should have led with that.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. It's in the stream.
It's totally the Dragon Isles.
It's in the stream.
100 million percent. So
yeah, because even I was even sitting thinking, I had notes that I scribbled down very rapidly when I was waking up in the middle of the night, because that's when your brain works apparently. But it's Fairy Dragon and Dragon Isles. Fairy Dragon and the Dragon bundle. So it's clearly Emerald Dream and Dragon Isles are the two like major kind of contendery stuff.
I think that has anything to do with the recent vaguely moonish, loonish, story points, and also paid transmogrification armor?
No, sir, not at all.
Anything to do with the sort of sun and moon themed things on the...
I wonder.
Yeah, big thing, especially because, you see, it can be both Elune and dragons, and they could do this thing of tying Elune into the Titans, because as we know, Elune is just a member of the Pantheon of Life that was created by the first ones, the same way that the Titans are, and so on and so forth. So,
indeed.
I suppose we should just dive in, shouldn't we?
Oh yes. But before we talk about it, I am going to do my my big thinko. Big thinko, right? Which
Brace
is I don't now. This is the problem when you take notes late at night on your phone when you can barely see your phone screen. They're incomprehensible. So I'll read them out word by word. Blinky, Fae, Emerald Dream, Dragons, Ancient Azeroth, going to the past, going back, taken too literally. Astral Blue Outfit, Dream, Lifelands, cancelled plans to go back to Azeroth. So
that
they're
seems
going to go to the past.
Yeah, you see that? Well, that reads to me as a bunch of keywords you put into the AI that generates the expansion. Or like a GPT-3 thing.
Exactly. No, they've. I am starting to think we might actually see Ancient Azeroth, because that's a thing that they'll have fun writing, going back in time, and also I don't think they've really learned the lesson of destroying timelines as much. But it also gets us away from having to deal with a load of modern problems that they haven't considered. So I think there'll be at least we could do that, maybe. But it's the.
I'd be surprised, but I actually remember. I think it was to the effect of the WoW team's opinion on time in the Shadowlands changing. But I can't remember it exactly, so I don't want to say it.
Wouldn't it be really, really funny if they actually did plan it? But the whole time stuff, acting funny, in the way Ian worded it in the when he was asked about it, or whatever clarification was given, it actually is, oh, we're going to come out of the Shadowlands in the past. That would be very, very strange. It would also be a way to unkill a bunch of characters.
No.
Not permanently, but experientially.
Yes, well, there's another game that sort of did a thing like that pretty well.
Indeed.
They would have to do that pretty well.
Yeah,
hopefully they can.
Yeah, that's it's just the part in my head that really latched onto it was, we're going back to Azeroth. What if someone with a very, 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 very overactive imagination thought about going back and just took it literally too literally? Now, going back, interesting. Past, because classic, people like classic. That was in the past. What if we go to the past in the modern?
World of Warcraft, even more classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the good news about all of this, everyone, is that you can join in this consumption occasion with the purchase of the Dragon Pack, which is indeed how you can bring the thunder. Hashtag bring the thunder. How exciting.
I love exciting.
It's a Stormount bundle. There's a bundle that also includes a new pet. Basically, they're really trying to get more money out of WoW these days.
Yeah.
Look at them go.
Yeah.
Of course, not everything here is a dragon, considering that's a Rylak, and they're a bit different. But anyway, there's a Dragon Pack.
Yeah, they're stretching the definition of dragon so that whenever they go back to dragons, they can bring it all to a specific source where the Dragon Jailer created all the dragons, actually.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised. yes, the next 10 years of Warcraft is just dealing with, like, you know, the jailer has a bunch of messages and like, if you're seeing this message, I have died. Here are your orders.
Oh
That's
my
the next
God.
10 years of Warcraft. Oh, I can't wait to buy my 1/5 scale Zoval statue. Yeah. Anyhow, right. So basically, there's a bunch of new dragons, and this has obviously got a lot of people thinking, dragons. Are dragons coming? Dragon Isles.
Is
And
it
actually,
in here?
there's a thing I put it in Slack.
The Zakan thing?
The Zakan
Yeah.
thing that comes from, of course, big man himself, Ian Bates. You will better know him as the red shirt guy. He is incredible at noticing things, including a line from Exploring Eastern King. Nope. Exploring Kalimdor, which in between all of the drama of Exploring Kalimdor, there's a line that's rather telling.
Yep.
So, should we do... Well, okay, so just talk about things. I mean, yeah, dragons. They're coming. Obviously, the Dragon Isles. Our whole situation on that is the Dragon Isles was quite heavily teased in Battle for Azeroth. Never bloody appeared. At the time, we thought the Dragon Isles was quite obviously going to be a patch 8.3. That didn't end up being the case. So it could have been that it was planned to be a patch at one stage, and now they're going to make it an... And by the way, this is not literally confirmed, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like they're going to do it as a patch. Maybe they're actually going to do it as an expansion instead. Maybe it could be an element of a larger expansion in the same way that, you know, World of Warcraft Legion sort of brought us the Broken Isles. And not all of the Broken Isles was like super, you know, Legion. It's like there was other things going on there. So Dragon Isles could be quite involved, given that they have been teased pretty recently in the game.
They have indeed.
And they've been teased again. Right. Note that Exploring Kalimdor, in between all of its issues, has a passage where Zakan talks about how there's a legend, everyone, about a distant land that is, quote, the home for all dragon flights, but no mortal has ever been there.
Yep.
You know, they could even do some whack shit and they could do some real whack shit and actually say that the Dragon Isles is not where it was in the vanilla map and the sort of pre-production maps for World of Warcraft, that instead it's at the far side of the planet, and they could probably do some conspiracy and weirdness if they wanted to. Because dragons would stop boats.
And they would have to do something strange with it that wouldn't just be, hey, here's the concept we had, we've brought it to the modern day a little bit, because they use so much of that in, what do you call it?
Oh, wait, shit, dude.
They use so much of that in Stormsong. Yep.
It can't be where we thought the Dragon Isles are.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, no mortals have been there.
A distant land.
Yeah.
Now, the Dragon Isles is not at all distant.
Yeah, it's...
That's the thing.
yeah, it's just an island off the coast of somewhere in the UK, was it?
Yeah, northern Eastern Kingdoms near like
Yeah.
Cothlas and stuff. Yeah. But like, it's just a tiny wee dot there on the older maps for World of Warcraft. So now we have a situation where Dragon Isles... I mean, he could be talking about that from a Kalimdor perspective, but if we're going to take that as a sort of known Azeroth perspective, like, you know, a distant land, that feels like there's a lot more unknown than just saying, oh yeah, it's, you know, just a wee bit to the west of where the Blood Elves live. You wouldn't call an island to the west where the Blood Elves live a distant land.
This is actually a very interesting thing I find about how they write a lot of this stuff, is that you can't have this purely from the perspective of a Kalimdor legend anymore, because that means nothing to players. It's the same as, you know, technically speaking, a distant land where, you know, the Kalimdor history hasn't experienced would be the Eastern Kingdoms. Outside of them knowing, like, trolls have made it over to Stranglethorn or wherever else. Because obviously Kalimdor was a completely untouched land by the human settlement, outside of a couple of straggler factions and stuff. So I guess it is a case of they are speaking to us with this by saying no mortal has ever been there. Because I don't think, unless you're thinking of afterlife stuff, Kalimdor legends shouldn't have much to do with mortals, unless you're thinking of afterlife or gods and stuff. So if it's like a distant land where no mortals ever been, it's like a very mythical place.
So in which case, what the balls does that mean? Because like, do we start to cast like Galakron as some sort of prime dragon? And it turns out this is the land where Galakron's from, because like the whole lore that we had previously understood was that all the dragons were, the drakes, right? The proto-drakes were in Northrend, living in and around the place.
Yeah.
Galacrond obviously crops up as a big issue. We then have the short story book things, about like that.
Dawn
and
of the
Tyr.
Aspects.
Yeah, Dawn of the Aspects.
Yeah, because you've got the whole, basically the Tyr lifted the dragons up because they were evolving to be more than, like Galacron, the proto-drakes. They had intelligence, and he sort of gave them a boost, gave them titanic power after they proved themselves by stopping Galacron. But I think that's really interesting because to make this the home of all dragonflights would be a very substantial retcon unless they handle it very either modern in the sense that this is a new home for the dragonflights, but not the dragonflights we know, the dragonflights that are actually, this is where the Twilight went to make a home for themselves. This is where the Infinite have a second base, or this is where, some splinter of Rathion's the Black Dragonflight went over there.
I guess could that not be it?
Yeah.
Rathion trying to like make a home for all dragons. Maybe
Yeah.
Rathion being like, us dragons have been, a bit fractured and disconnected. Look, Malagos lost his marbles and no one was there to help him. Let's form a new dragon. I was going to say kingdom, but that's not doesn't really make sense. A dragon land, right? A true home for all dragons. But that wouldn't really work because there is the whole thing. No mortals ever been there. That does imply time.
It implies either time or some sort of deep magic.
Yeah.
If you kind of get me. In the same way that the Emerald Dream was kind of no mortal is supposed to be there until Druid stuff. It kind of gives it that otherworldly feel, as in it's, not necessarily tied to the afterlife, but it's definitely not a place you can cross the ocean and go to for a stab.
So the thing here is like, so Radan was the prime designate, right?
I believe so.
He was the big, he was the prime designate after Odin
Had his whoopsie.
had his big whoopsie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Radan was the big important. I mean, either way, Amantul's essence went into Radan, which I think does show that Radan is kind of like the leader dude. But then the whole thing there is that Radan, he didn't know about all these extra Titan installations.
Yeah.
And he was their main man, right? So if that's the case, then what other stuff, like, do, say, the Titans not know about? Does it, do you end up finding out that there's, like, even more top secret bits of Azeroth? I almost said the Azeroth installation like I would talk about Zeta Halo or the Ark in the Halo universe. But I guess that's the thing. There's shit that they don't know about that, like, Mother, who's like has a very different role, knows about. So then with the dragons, like, what aren't they telling us? Or actually, there's a way you could get around this, because the dragons that we know, like, I'm pretty sure they weren't just like a bunch of flying lizards that had no think when they were proto-drakes.
Sort
They're
of
a primal think, right?
Sort of, in a way where the fact that they were able to communicate and have like complex thoughts was kind of, the kind of the same way, humans came up. That's sort of what Tyr was watching and was interested in.
Yeah.
Because he found, proper consciousness in a way. The proto-drakes that were like kind of around the Galacron level were able to extremely basic communication. Like hyper basic, where it wasn't even like Malagos, for example, in Dawn of the Aspects. They were talking to each other in single words, no sentences. They were just going blah 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 blah, and they were slightly above the proto-drakes, so they were generally considered, I guess, vaguely intelligent animals. Like, they wouldn't be as smart as a dolphin or an elephant. They would be kind of on the level of slightly above dogs, probably.
So
in that sense.
So therefore, they were uplifted from that perspective. The Titan keeper that was helping uplift them and everything would not have known more than Radan knew, which means there's a whole bunch of info that Tyr would not have known. Which could be the back of Azeroth, could be the Dragon Isles, the real Dragon Isles, right, where these dragons ended up coming from. Those dragons, all the dragons that we know, have they got the memo about the Dragon Isles? If you think about it, they never would have known about it because they were a bunch of animals. And then they get uplifted and all of that. But from their perspective, as these new dragon flights, like thousands and thousands of years ago, well, they're not going to suddenly be like, wow, I'm a bit more conscious. Oh, I intuitively know there's a place the other side of this planet that is also probably some weird secret. They're going to know. So there's a way to have a true home to all dragons and explain it in, like, you know, myth and legend amongst dragons, but with really no, not much of a thing with our current cast. It's the sort of thing where, like, it's easy to accept that Raden doesn't know about a bunch of Titan installations because of, like, what Raden is, how he was formed, and all of those systems. I suppose for a fleshy being, you usually think about curiosity and maybe exploration and stuff. But you could probably get around that. There's probably a way to say that that's like the place where the dragons were all seeded from, where they came from, like the original dragon place.
Yeah.
Maybe that's some sort of other, Titan facility that's working on, on fauna, and that's where the dragon comes from. And maybe that place gets all old godded up and some weird things happen because we only know our, like, account of, Amantul goes and he rips Yasharj out and he has a wee snack and throws him away and does all things. All of that, like Black Empire war shit. Well, we only know canonically, right? We only know what, like, a Titan Keeper would know.
I believe so.
Which then means that there could be bits the Titans left out, and I think Blizzard wanting us to think a little bit more suspiciously of the Titans, or maybe not suspiciously, a bit more critically of them, well, that could fit into that as well. And then Rathian, actually, he could be the perfect, fuck you, I'm not going to do it, you told me.
Yeah, I mean,
like, that's Rathian, isn't it? So.
Yeah, there's definitely room for them to have dragons that aren't our dragons. There's room for them to explore Galakron's origins because there's no real explanation for Galakron becoming Galakron outside of
just a hungry boy.
Boy was hungry. Somehow it was, necrosis turned him into a necromancer dragon somehow. So that's where we had a whole lot of thoughts earlier about how Zoval could be tied into that.
Zoval is tied to the Dragon Isles because Zoval using it was the predecessor to domination magic. It was called Hungry Hippos, and he used that on Galakron. So Galakron is actually a scheme by Zoval. There you go.
See,
called it.
That's the thing I was very kind of pissed off about, possibly when we like earlier on before 9.1 and 9.2 drove it in this direction of we're just gonna fucking finish it off now. But sorry, entirely planned, obviously. But the part that now is opened up is if he's not overtly actually involved in Galakron, then you have to wonder how that happened.
Yeah.
How? Because obviously we had a whole lot of thoughts about the death and its origins in Northrend because it's cold. It's where death magic comes from because that's where cold things go up there, die. All makes sense, but obviously preservation in the cold for dead things means corpses and stuff like that are well preserved, which all leads to the mythos of death coming from there. But without Zoval being involved, then you go back to more basic stuff, which is it's either just happened, or it's, and this is where they have a chance potentially if they go for the Titan Dragon Isles Titan sort of progeny zone, creation zone that they wanted to hide or didn't tell anyone about. It was like a secret version. Then they could go for the Gahoon version 2, but this time actually tell it as a story and kind of instead of a very, very small side story that no one really understood the point of. They could go again with that, which was Galakron was a Titan experiment that gone wrong, but Tyr didn't know about it. It was a secret Titan experiment that went wrong. These dragons are separate, so we have to go and sort that out.
And it's tied, it's tied to death, not via Zoval, but it's tied to the Titans' explorations into death, because at that time they hadn't awoken their brother Argus, and a whole bunch of, now Argus, what the fuck does Argus mean? You could say, that's a separate little topic. We'll get to that. Oh boy!
Yep, that's something, but
I suppose that's a way of having it be death. Be connected to Zoval, but not actually being Zoval's plan. It being the Titans doing things. But more death is certainly not what we want. So definitely the death aspect, that would just be like the lore of, this is where Galakron came from.
Yeah, that would be the Titans maybe understood Zoval and were in some capacity experimenting on death, even though that would be a weird thing. But they're experimenting on forms of order and control, like, can we order death? Can we control death? Can we use it as a force? Oh shit, it's all gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And then covered up, etc. super secretive. Gahun version 2, oh yeah, we're trying to do experiments that we shouldn't be doing, which is, they obviously the point of the Gahun stuff was, what the fuck are the Titans doing? They're not wise. They're fallible. They're making mistakes. So you could have the kind of Wrathion rebelling against the dragon's true nature, finding it out and being like, kind of heartened because there's more dragons, but then disheartened because they're in a different state or something like that.
Yeah.
And you have a whole depth of storytelling with, I guess, the dragon follow-up, which would kind of spit in the face of Cataclysm, being, the age of dragons is over. And they're like, the age of dragons is back because we need to. But it would certainly work.
But also, let's be real, that was maybe not written in Chris Metzen's creative prime.
Yeah.
No harm to Chris.
Yeah.
But I would certainly say that while, many of us really like things that he created and a lot of those stories, I don't even mean like this isn't me being like, I only like the first album. Misery Business was too generic and loud. Yeah.
Oh,
I remember that whole discussion at school. That was fun.
Oh, that played whenever I was getting my burger earlier. It was weird.
But that was the period of time where, Mattson was having a pretty tough time. He's talked about having, extreme burnout because he's at that stage where he is a highfalutin executive who's, well compensated and all of that. The big games companies, all those things have went well, et cetera, et cetera. He comes across personal issues which, directly, heavily influenced, this is by his own account, directly, heavily influenced the story of StarCraft 2. And very especially Heart of the Swarm. Yeah. Also, I think, influenced Cataclysm. It's like if you know the backstory there, you can see how it influenced Cataclysm. And then when we think about Cataclysm, it's like, well, Cataclysm, let's be real, in many ways sucked for the lore.
Certainly.
It had cool bits. Like, there was shit in Cataclysm was just really cool to see. But the whole, come on, the final raid. And we actually dig into the development history there with the final raid. It seems like, basically, Kata seems to be a humongous cacophony of nothing went to plan.
Yep.
So I think that's why Cataclysm just kind of happened the way that it did. And then, it left some of the lore in this weird, messy position for a while. So I'm okay with doing things that undo Cataclysm. I remember at the time people not really thinking that the end of Kata was super cool. So, yeah. I'm okay with that going. Like the whole, we now look upon the world with mortal eyes, as their eyes just stop glowing. You're like, okay, this is just cringy now.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually fine with trampling over Kata. It's kind of funny. It's that thing where I thought Kata was just a big mess for the lore. TBC was a mess for the lore as well. In some ways, Wrath was a little bit iffy with the lore, but Wrath also expanded it in really cool ways. And, it was just like, it was that time when Blizzard, maybe they didn't get the lore necessarily right, but they really got the vibe of being there right, and that's what super, super attached people to the lore. Because so much of Kata is being retconned, or not Kata, sorry, Wrath is being retconned. Yeah. Like the whole Loken, stuff's basically shit's all falsified. Mm-hmm. There's no divide between these boys and these giants. So it was kind of interesting how it went. And then I think that the expansion probably did the best by the lore. Mop?
Probably.
Mop's lore, if memory serves, Mop's lore was, and kind of I agree, it did have in the zones, you could have a really great time. Yeah. It's it did all that, right? I just think that the A plot of the max level bit was a little iffy. Fun zones and stuff. But the point that I was working to is in their whole sort of modern era, Mists of Pandaria, I think, had great storytelling and their best lore. When I think about it,
yep, easy.
One or two things a little bit derivative. I still am frustrated at their handling of the Pandaren in many cases. I wish they were just less sort of drunkards. There's some weird shit, but it's its lore was pretty consistent. It was pretty well told. There was actually depth and myth behind all of the different groups that you saw. And maybe people will or will not have liked it, but it was pretty immersive. And then you go into Warlords of Draenor, where there's a really funny situation where I think it could have been primed to have had some of their best lore and storytelling, but obviously they evidently had to cut their plans down even from before they shipped. There was the whole storyline with Urel's Dark Secret, which I suppose now that she has some rather authoritarian tendencies, maybe that's what the Dark Secret is. But it was supposed to tie into other lore, that we had. So, and that was cut during beta, I think. So it's that funny thing. And then we go into Legion, where the lore is actually getting pretty cool and pretty interesting. They're teasing the mystery, not going overboard, having fun with it. And like the A plot definitely has its issues. I mean, you know, why did the Storm Rage brothers not have a chat, etc. But like it was pretty clear and simple. Then the recent times are just really, really hard to sum up.
Yeah, it's all over the place, really.
So it's that weird thing with WoW's storytelling where, like, what's happened is I think they just got way too big for their boots, you know, way too ambitious. They weren't able to pull any of it off. You know, like the story just going from, you know, 1 to 100 in this expansion. And that just does make me think that if they do a simple, limited concept in a place that we already know, that they've already established, that they could see a decent amount of success. I think they just need to, you know, find where they're doing this expansion and kind of just treat it like evidently how they treated Mob.
Yeah, that's where I run into problems with the Dragon Isles, because so much of it will come across like, wait, how the hell do we not know any of this before? What do you mean this is new to us? Which I think is sort of a problem because the World of Warcraft feels so complete at the minute. I also would generally, well, maybe this is just me being like too logical about it, but we have a spaceship. How do we not know what's on the other side of the planet? Just take a wee spin around.
Because of a Titan invisibility shield.
That makes sense.
They could do it.
Yeah,
Look what the Chuckler's able to pull off.
Fair, yeah.
Right? They could do it.
Well, he's in another dimension, so he's okay with that.
But the thing is, we already were told that nothing made it there across the sea.
Yeah.
And I believe they could even tie this into some established depictions of Azeroth, where anytime you look at its back end, there's just loads of clouds and stuff. So you could maybe say that there's like some sort of ring of storms being created, like some weather system around it, and then above it, like, you know, just super dense high cloud cover, and you basically get that kind of thing where, you know, you're passing through the dark storm, and you go through and you sort of blast through the darkness into suddenly, oh, what the hell? How does this place look so serene and picturesque? Wow, it's like a little, you know, world within a pocket in the world, right? It's like the Eden Center, but big.
Yeah.
They could do that.
Yeah, I guess.
And everyone would be like, oh, well, literally what? But, I mean, look, they were able to say with Pandaria, it was just very misty. And I believe that mist was also some sort of Titan originating. You know, it's the Titan.
The Pandaria stuff?
Yeah.
No, that was Emperor Xiaohao.
Oh, what am I freaking on about?
Thing to protect the planet from the Demon Division.
Yeah, so the mists.
Yeah.
If Xiaohao can pull that off, then...
Yeah, they could do the same. They would just have to make it possibly feel a little less the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Which I guess they could do with the Titan Invisibility Shield that we adventured to turn off. Oh man, imagine that. An expansion with a prologue. Or have a prologue. We go do the... we go with... Magni wakes up and goes, something's going on. Mother woke me up. There's some shit happening. Well, we have to go find this shit. She found something out because she's got nothing to do. She's just sort of going through the records or something that doesn't seem off. I guess that's interesting. Sorry, just a completely errant thought. Because of how technological all the Titan systems are set up, it might not actually even be like the Titans are keeping a secret and built off this walled off area. It could be a bad actor involved in the Titans.
Yeah.
Who had, you know, overriding access. And before we started to, like, before our time, a little bit, before we started to interface with Titan systems, they could have went, well, we've hacked the Titan mainframe and we've put security clearance on all this stuff and hidden it. So you have a precursor dragon who's a hacker and they've turned it all off, so not even Mother knows about it.
Or it's Mother's counterpart, Daddy.
Could be Father, yeah.
Yeah, Fan Daddy. Yep. He's just over there, the other side of the world. Yep. It could be something, though. Yeah, I wonder, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of investigating Titan corruptions or... it's just tricky, because I remember there was so much, you know, oh, the Titan machinery of this works like that was going on whenever we had all of that 8.1, or no, it was 8.2 stuff, of, you know, the picking up Rathian's little expedition notes and the story that we got then.
Exposition. Let's see it.
Yep. So through that, there's probably more to all these Titan systems than we know.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you think about, it was a video. It's not. Is it out? No, it's not out yet. It was the video of the Azeroth one. We're just thinking to ourselves like, all right, so we have this friggin' engine of creation in Zereth Mortis. Okay, what the hell's that? Seemingly, Azerite is in Zereth Mortis in the Sepulchre of the... Okay, right, what the hell's going on there? Azeroth's clearly not just a feckin' Titan. There's more to Azeroth than that. Because previously, the lore was that Azeroth was the most powerful Titan. The most powerful Titan. Which, clearly there's more going on. So... That means, like, there are things that could be on Azeroth that could defy our expectations.
Yeah. Also,
because of the first ones.
More than anything else, we could just go on an adventure with Bran again. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, but would that be epic?
Yeah, it'd be epic as fuck. Everyone would be like, holy shit, it's the Bronzebeard we like, let's go. Finally.
Meriden's good.
Yeah, but he's dead. He's still dead. He never existed in Wrath. Shut up.
Sure thing.
That's such a...
Sure thing, bro.
Honestly, that is still something I am mildly triggered by to this day. Just the idea of Myrn wasn't dead. Like, he was fucking impaled through the fucking chest. How is Frostmourne a Curse's Blade if it didn't kill Myrn? Some weak ass shit that is, like.
Yeah. I mean, even with Frostmourne, there's more spooky lore going on, like the weird death elemental thing. Yeah, I was going into that. Like, there's still unexplained things.
Yeah.
Even from now. I mean, you could just, I guess, say, oh, it's Zoval magic, whatever. But there's a few things that are still unexplained from the whole scene where Azeroth picks up Frostmourne. Azeroth. Sorry, whoops. Arthas.
Fucking hell.
Oh, dear.
Too many big names beginning with A.
Yeah, so I guess there we go, everyone. There's maybe Dragon Isles expansion coming. There's another side to this. There's another side to this too.
Yep.
So
Blinky.
Q4. It's Q4, everyone, and they probably are going to be scheduling all their sales events and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a bit of me that just sort of thinks, well, what if they were kind of... no. Because the new expansion would have been announced by now.
Yeah.
It would have been announced by now, normally in November, and then you could tie it in with a store sale thing. But at no point had they ever planned a November announcement for that expansion. Therefore, that plan makes no sense, and this is just some dragons for sale, ostensibly.
Yeah. No, I think it was shortly after I saw a Tally tweet that, and I was just like, there is a world in which that is true. And I really don't want that to be the world we live in. I really don't want the marketing and sales team of the Mounts and BNet store to be that far removed from the development team that happens.
Yeah.
But it is also like, if there was a BlizzCon plan, I could 1000% see that, because the devs are too busy to look around and go, fuck, no, shit, no. But yeah. Yeah,
but then so it wasn't BlizzCon. But, who knows? It's just dragons. Maybe people are thinking about dragons. The reason I'd say more why we're thinking about Dragon Isles is, this is just a funny thing that brings it up again, but it is some of the past Stormount content. It is what was found in exploring Azeroth Kalimdor. This from Ian, that it's got the passage where Zelkan talks about, or Zekan, whatever. Yeah, Zekan talks about how there's a legend of a distant land that is the home of all dragon flights that no mortal has ever been to. Like that, that's recently been teased in a book that was like supposed to come out, well, now-ish.
Yeah. It all ends up, especially with the same thing with the folk and fairy tale stuff going so hard in on Kalimdor lore and the Elune and the Anshe and Musha stuff. Is all very, 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 very up there.
Where we have, First Ones and Titans and the Elune stuff, they've already, forged ties between those things in the Shadowlands expansion. So being able to do Dragon Isles, but also having those sort of Sun, Moon, Elune elements, that would make sense. And then all the, Musha, Anshe stuff that, they did in fucking fairy tales. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Indeed. Could be the dragons, everyone. Could be the dragons.